a recruiter is essentially a stalker. The key advice that I give people is that you have to see or imagine that your new job is getting a job.
Right.
So many people look at job hunting and they just think, I'll do my CV, I'll send it to a few places and that's that done. But actually you have to think of getting a job as a job. And you have to research, you have to educate yourself, you have to teach yourself all the new skills that are required to find a job. These days you have to have great LinkedIn profiles, great CVs, so you almost have to be a graphic designer to make your CV look good. You have to be a social media expert to get your LinkedIn profile out there and seen by people. So there's so many skills that you have to learn, and then you have to work 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Wait,
You can't work for half an hour a day and expect to get a job. You have to work 9 to 5, training yourself, researching, and actually doing the work. If you sit back and think the government is going to take care of me, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, I hope I get a job, you're not going to get a job, because the people you're competing against are working their butts off to get a job.
Now, you mentioned LinkedIn. Is it, or you're going to have to use social media to get their profile up there and everything? And Juanita, you obviously agree.
Yeah.
But the thing is, for an old guy, and I'm in my 40s, imagine you're 50 years old, right? You're 5 years away from probably retiring. Now they're pushing to 65, right? They're going to go, what's LinkedIn? They probably don't even have that. The last time they actually applied for a job or went for an interview, they submitted some resume on a piece of paper. So how do the older guys?
Yeah, it's a really tough situation. But I disagree that they wouldn't know how to use LinkedIn. I think all social media, although intimidating from the outside, once you take one step towards it, everything else becomes easy. It's designed to be as user-friendly and as intuitive as possible. And once you realize, you just make the mental switch that your LinkedIn profile is just a CV. It's not something different, it's not something amazing, it's not something complicated. It's just a CV that you've put online. That's all it is. That's all members of the older generation have to understand. And in fact, it's not just the older generation that have an issue with this. Younger generation who use social media to take pictures of their lunch and post it on Instagram, to use social media in this way. They've never used it for job hunting. So they're actually facing the same problems. And if you look at LinkedIn profiles of the younger generation, they make as many mistakes and errors as people in the older generation. So actually it's not a problem that just affects the older generation, it also affects the younger generation. The great news is that if you Google very simple terms like how to make my LinkedIn profile look amazing, there's articles and articles and articles that take you step by step what to do and how to make it as appealing as possible.
Yeah, it's down to the writing. I really enjoyed reading about that and learning how to create an awesome
What do people actually
profile.
read? What's in LinkedIn?
Yeah,
or
it's your tagline. What's the first line that you're gonna write to draw I don't know, future employers?
What's a good line? No, I dream of traveling the world, and then people, oh, that's good. You want to be a travel influencer,
Humble brag.
right?
But you've got to think of who your audience is. So if you imagine a recruiter typically recruiting for 10 roles, each roles, he might have to look at 2,000 LinkedIn profiles to find the one right candidate for each role. So 10 roles, 2,000 candidates for each role. That's a lot of people he has to.
Yeah, you got to bundle.
And quite often, you will only read the first few sentences. So you've got to make sure the first sentences of your summary are not just eye-catching, as in something bombastic, but something that explains what you do and what you want to do as well. But it also has to be keyword friendly. So you have to take time to make it exciting.
So if you're good at hashtags, this is going to be great for you, is it?
So typically,
Don't hashtag on your bio.
Hashtag desperate, hashtag need a job, hashtag will work for 2/3 what I used to earn.
No, you say hashtag I've got plenty of offers coming in.
Right.
Maybe you should give me one too. You don't want to seem desperate. But keywords, so typically if I'm looking for a head of marketing, I will go into LinkedIn and type in all kinds of keywords like director, marketing, SEO, SEM. So when you're creating your LinkedIn profile, you've got to imagine what are the keywords that a recruiter would use if they were looking for someone like me. And you've got to make sure your profile contains all those keywords while still being a creatively written.
This is as important as your Tinder and Bumble profile. It is as.
So basically, you need to. Basically, it's like a huge pickup line, right? Imagine trying to get a girl. I mean, it's a pickup line, but you're trying to pick up a job, right? But it's interesting that you say people still go through LinkedIn, though, right?
So people, I think CVs are becoming outdated. They're still necessary, but I rarely collect CVs and I rarely post jobs. I just search on LinkedIn. If you assume that you can copy paste your CV into LinkedIn, it takes 5 minutes to set up.
Yeah.
And then instead of you having to go out and apply for jobs, you've deposited your CV as a LinkedIn profile and recruiters can find you.
Right.
So you're outsourcing the job hunt to the recruiter. So you don't have to go and you should still go and apply for jobs.
Yeah.
But you've also got this extra avenue of recruiters being able to find you even though you're not applying.
This has happened to me before, and it's very strange because I actually got a job interview. Went in, and they said, yeah, so we're very interested in hiring you, but we went through your social media page. I'm like, oh my God, like what the, serious. Do you really go, like, is that important? Even that's my personal page.
So a recruiter is essentially a stalker. A stalker.
It's fun, right?
And it is fun as well. So recruitment is also quite boring. So sometimes as a recruiter, you do want to search around and add a bit more fun to your job. But in reality, a lot of companies now are hiring specifically for culture fit.
Okay.
And it's very hard to assess culture fit on a CV or a LinkedIn profile. In fact, it's also very hard just using other social media as well. But it does give you a little insight. Again, if you've got 10 candidates, and you want to shortlist four for an interview, and all the CVs look the same, and all the LinkedIn profiles look the same.
How do you stand out?
You don't want to have to call all 10 of them and do a phone screening. You only want to call 4 or 5 of them. So then you go to the next available information, which is their social media. And you make a decision that way. If you had plenty of time, you can call all 10 or all 20 and get a really in-depth idea of what they're about and things like this. But you just don't have that time. So a quick flick onto their Facebook or their Instagram tells you a little bit more, not a lot, but just enough to help you narrow a big number of candidates down to a small number of candidates.
I feel like everybody is essentially a personality in that sense, where you have to have, I don't know, your content on every platform. Does it higher my chances if I have articles, for example, on LinkedIn to get noticed? Let's say I produce a lot I write a lot of articles.
So if you are in a industry where you're producing content,
yeah,
of course.
Or if you apply for a PR job.
Exactly. So if I can have evidence of your skills and abilities before even meeting you, as in I can read your content, read your press releases, etc. Again, that gives me another reason to call you versus someone who has an identical CV, right, but with no content online that I can find.
Right. What if I've spoken on it? Sorry.
So it definitely helps.
Okay. What if I've spoken on a TEDx talk?
I think that helps as well. I think so. TEDx specifically, there's a lot of prestige around it.
Yeah.
So if you see someone who has done a TED talk, you automatically assume that they must be good. They must be good. But even non-content related jobs, if I'm hiring a data analyst and I see that they've written an article about a new function within data analytics, it makes me think, wow, this person's up to date. They're passionate about the industry, and maybe I should give them a call.
So within a profile, it's like stand out. Obviously, you're qualified for the job. You write a lot of articles that's relevant to whatever job.
Advice. Put out your advice.
Right,
yeah.
And like what else? You go for conferences.
But the articles themselves can also be a way for recruiters to find you.
Yes.
So if you're on LinkedIn constantly, you constantly see all these updates of new articles and new posts, and you might see this data analyst has written an article, and then you're not hiring, but then 5 months later you kind of, oh, I remember seeing that guy wrote an article. let me try and remember who that guy was. So even if you're not specifically using it to find a job, becoming or taking efforts to become well known within your specialization is always going to help you find jobs in the future. So I definitely recommend people write articles, do interesting posts about what they do. Yeah. They often take less than 10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Glad you liked it. Now, if you want to check out a full discussion on all our other episodes, click right here. And of course, don't forget to subscribe.